So I'm going to put together this iCraft kit, another one in my series, and this one's called the Cascading Mini Album. Now it says on the front of the box that it's ready to use scrapbook template. This set contains one set of 5 pieces each of black and craft cardstock. This scrapbook can accommodate 15 photographs. The final size of the scrapbook would be 4.5 by 4.5 inches. So it's not very big. It's only 4.5 by 4.5 inches, but there are 2 of them in this kit. And as I've said before, these kits are really great value because I think this kit was about $10.99 and you're getting 2 albums in it. Now let's flip to the back. Usually on the back, and this one is no exception, they have the measurements for each of the pieces. And by the looks of things, there are only 4 pieces. Although, how many did it say on here? Says this set contains one set of 5 pieces. Okay, I count 1, 2, 3, 4 on the back, but we'll see what's actually in the box when we open it. It also has a picture of what the final album might look like, and it says there are DIY instructions included. And you know from past videos, if you've seen them, when I do the iCraft kits, that basically the information on the back of the box, especially the measurements, and the instructions inside the box are not always that clear. So we're going to try to figure this one out, and I'm glad that there are 2 of them in this kit because one of them I will use as a practice and the other one I'll use for the good copy. So let's just take a look at what's in the box. So here's our kits, and there's supposed to be 2, one in black and one in cardstock, and indeed it does look like there are. So let's take these out of the package. And what I like to do before I begin is they usually start with a picture of all the pieces. It says this kit contains 9 parts of craft and black paper each. Okay, is there 5? Are there 4? Or are there 9 pieces? So let's set the black one aside and let's work with the craft one. And let's take these pieces out. Now, of course, they all come pre-scored, so we will have to fold those, but I'm just going to organize the pieces out here on my work table to see what it is that we have. Okay, so do we have 5 pieces like it said on the cover? Do we have 4 pieces like it said that it shows on the back? Or do we have 9 pieces? Well, there are not 9 pieces in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5. So let's match them up with what's on the diagram. And I'm going to take a pen or a marker, if I find one here, and I'm just going to mark what they have here marked as well. So, well, this is interesting. These instructions do not look anything like what's in the package. Can you see here? There's 2 pieces that are called the belt. And that looks like that might be these pieces right here. So this one of these is belt, and it's got 5 in a bracket. And this one says belt 5. Okay. But then they say we have a left flap and a right flap and a base. I think this might be the base. I'm not really sure. I'm going to flip the instructions over. These instructions are not the right instructions. Shows how to put the belt together. Shows us folding it in half this way. But this, I really don't know. These instructions do not look like anything like this finished product at all. Okay, this is the problem with this company, okay? I like their kits, but do not depend upon instructions for putting this together being the correct ones. This is obviously not the right instruction sheet. This makes something slightly different. I think they've either got the wrong instructions in the wrong box or whatever. The instructions are never very clear anyway, so we're on our own for this one. So we're going to use the diagram, not the diagram, the picture on the front and the back of the box, and see if we can figure out how this goes together. Now there's not that many pieces, so it shouldn't be all that difficult. So let's determine what this is. It is called a Cascading Mini Album. So they said it was 4 by 5. So I'm assuming this piece with the score lines is probably the outside cover. So let's just fold this along the score lines to get some sense of what the shape might be. It's always a mystery, these kits, I find. And that's one reason why I'm making these videos for you, so I can take the mystery out of it. Okay, so it looks to me, and let's go back to the first page, they show a little flap coming down on the top over this. So I would say that this is how it goes together. And they do show sort of a belt piece, and that's what these must be that go around it. And these have score lines. Oops, folded that score line crooked. Let's just straighten that up. You do have to be careful. I also find these kits with their score lines that the score lines are not that deep. Okay, so I would say that one of these has to be attached possibly like that. And since it's a belt, I would assume you would attach these two pieces together and it will slide over the top. Yeah, and that probably goes on the inside. Okay, pretty much got that figured out. So then these must be the inside pages. Now, this has score lines like this. I'm assuming you would accordion fold it. However, this one has an extra score line, and that's along here. So that's a tab that must attach to something. Now, would it attach to this piece and make this piece really long? Let's take a look at the back. Well, this does not give me any indication either as to how this goes together. Let's go back to the instruction sheet and let's see if there's anything that resembles that. Okay, they show folding the outside cover, but this does not look like this. You talk about attaching flaps left and right. See, this showing the flaps are coming in and out inside, and that's not how this works. So you have to be able to attach. All right, let's assume if we attach this piece to this piece and get this really long piece right here. Okay, this is this really long piece, then how do you attach it to the insides? Put the belt to the side. They show it on its side. I would think because it opens up. Really not sure. Really not sure at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto YouTube and see if they've actually have one on YouTube that they've been putting together. I don't think they do, but I'm going to check it out. I'll be back and let you know. Okay, no luck on YouTube. They do not have a video showing how to put this one together. Okay, so we're going to do it our own way. So here we have these two inner pages, and I'm assuming these two inner pages probably are joined together because of this flap, and all fold up like an accordion. So that's the way I'm going to put them together. So to stick these two down, I'm going to use some 1/2 inch score tape, double-sided tape. This isn't actually score tape. That's a brand name. This is express tape, but same difference. Whatever you have. Now, where did I put my bone folder? Under here. Let's varnish this down well. And let's get out my pokey tool so I can take off the backing. Okay, why am I having problems? This is just a day for problems with this project, isn't it? Okay, so we need to put this piece on here. I'm just going to line it up with the score line and make sure my edges are even. Give it a good press. And now let's fold this up accordion fold style. Okay, so how do we attach it in here? Well, I would say the simplest way is to determine how you want it to open. So I suppose if you're opening this up like this and it's cascading, I'd say your pages go down this way. So this page, we're going to adhere down to the inside of that. So again, you could use wet glue for this. In fact, I would almost recommend you use a wet glue if you're making your album from their craft cardstock, because I do find that sometimes the tape does not hold very well to the craft cardstock. I don't know why that is. I think I mentioned in one of my other videos that I think it might be the texture of the craft cardstock, because it's got kind of a light fuzzy texture. And you know, I think for good luck, since this is going to be a page that's going to have some pressure on it, I'm going to put more tape. Let's make sure we get it well secured, given what I just said. Okay, varnish it well. And let's just fold those up. Just make sure that when I open it, it's going to go this way. Okay, so you need to take off the tape backing, the protective tape backing. I'm having a real problem today with this. Usually I can get these flipped right off in no time. You know, it always figures when you make a video, this is when you have all the problems. Well, this isn't a major problem. It's just a little fiddly. Okay, we've got that ready to go. So it's going to open out like this. So take this, and I guess we're just going to, now we could put it down on this side. Could we? We could, but I don't think I will, because it looks like it might be too long. Okay, I'm going to bend that back so I can see these things a little better. I want to center it right in this back piece best I can. I'm just eyeballing it. So let's, oh yeah, okay, I did it wrong. Well, yeah, I did it wrong. I did it wrong. This is dumb. Okay, I'm going to try and pull this off, because I want it to open out from, oh wait, I didn't do it wrong. If I want it to open this way, no, I'm good. Well, I'm good for the, yeah, okay, I'm good. But then you'd flip it this way. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Either way is going to work. Okay. I'm going to take the bone folder. These are a little on the crooked side. All right, so this piece goes up here. This piece would go down here. So we need to put the little belly band together, or the belt as they call it. So let's put, these have tabs. I think I'd put the tabs on the inside. See the tabs here? I think I'd put them like that. So let's put some 1/4 inch. No, they look wide enough for 1/2 inch, so we'll use 1/2 inch. Actually, I think wet glue might be better on this. And I'll keep that in mind when I do the black one. This one's what I consider my prototype. So I figure out how to assemble it. I am having the devil of a time with this two-sided tape. I don't know why. It doesn't usually give me that kind of problem. Yeah, that did not. I'm going to use wet glue. I'm going to use the Gorilla Glue. Actually, lay it flat. That might be easier to start with. Okay, let's just hold that down for a few seconds. And while it's drying, I'll talk to you. So, these kits, when you get them done, are worth the effort. The price is really good on them. As I said, $10.99, I get 2 of these mini cascading albums. Instructions suck. Very few YouTube videos for most of their products. And the quality of the craft cardstock is not very good. The black is pretty good, and the white, on the ones that do come with white, is pretty good. So you're balancing here the price and the frustration level. And this is why I'm making these videos. So you won't go through the hell that I've been going through. So let's see, I'm going to put this one on here. So more of the Gorilla Glue. You could use hot glue too. I like the Gorilla Glue. It holds everything. However, you get it on your fingers and that's a problem. Okay, I'm just going to hold that for a few seconds. That should be good. Also, I find that the craft cardstock absorbs your glue very fast. So you can see here it's leaked out over the edge a little bit. So square this up a bit. So this would just slide over top of here, just like that. And that's your enclosure. Now, when you get more pages, when you get the pages decorated and things like that, this is going to puff out a little bit more, and I think there'll be less slack in the band. So that will hold it a little better. But that's all there is to it now that we have figured out. As I said, I'm not sure if I have put it together the way that the company may have intended it to be put together, but this works for me. So now that I've done this, I can go ahead and cut my background papers and assemble the black one, and I will do that in the next segment. What I've been doing, if you've been following my series along, is I've been cutting out my background papers first of all, and then adhering them to all the pieces before I do the actual assembly. This one, because of the way it's designed, you could do it that way, or you could just simply put it together and then add your background pages without having to worry about that. And in fact, I may do that instead on this particular one. It doesn't really matter. Mind you, I do like to go around the edges with my ink, although I'll be doing this on the black one, so I don't think I'll need to go around the edges with ink just to for it to stand out. I could do that though on this one. So maybe I will, in the case of this one, make 2 of these, one in the craft and one in the black. So that's in the next segment. So now it's come time to put the background papers onto this, and for this I use the second album in the kit, which is in black cardstock. I used the first one, as you know, just to figure out how to assemble it, and now that I know how to do that, it was easy enough to assemble this second album. And what I did was I sort of put the background papers, not sort of, I did put the background papers on before I actually assembled the album. I just thought it would be easier. Now the background papers I'm using for this come from this pad, and this is by iCraft as well, and it's called Watercolor Fantasy. 24 pattern papers. They're 210 GSM cardstock, so that's the European measure for it. I'm not sure what that is in Canadian or American. I think it might be like about 100 or 110 pound cardstock, but not absolutely sure. But it is a very thick cardstock, and it is not double-sided. Now I've used the papers in this, but just to show you some of the ones that were left over, you can see the one side is printed, the other side is blank. And that's okay for this project because I didn't need both sides of it. But it's a very nice cardstock. One thing I did find when I first got this pad, and I think the company may have corrected it by now, is that they say they're 12 by 12 inches. They actually aren't. They're 12 by 11 3/4. They were taking into consideration the stapled part where they had joined this, and so they're not a perfect square. Now that really wasn't upsetting to me when doing this particular project because I was cutting the paper anyways. But if someone had bought this pad for background papers for, say, a 12 by 12 scrapbook, this might be very annoying. But the company has figured this out, that there was something wrong here, and they have said that their future paper pads will be a true 12 by 12. Again, getting your hands on this is not easy. I get it from my local scrapbooking store, and if you're interested, they're here in Canada, but they will ship anywhere in the world. So all you need to do is go to classact.ca. That's spelled CLASSACT.ca. And the owner, Carol, you can leave her a message. She may even have some of this online already. And but you can send her a message through her website and ask her about ordering some of these paper pads. And this is just one. They have several in their line, different types, and what it would cost to ship to wherever you are in the world. So I decided to use this paper pad. I do like the colors that are in it, and you can see here a sample of all of them. And just to save time, I did the attaching of the background papers off camera. So you can see here, here's the basic album all folded up. It has this belly band, or I don't know what you want to call it, belt. They call it a belt. Now, one advantage of this belt is if you don't want it right in the center, you don't have to have it right in the center. You could have it off to the side. It depends. I had thought of putting a magnet in here underneath the flap, but I don't think I'm going to bother. This seems to be fairly substantial. It will hold as and allow for expansion in the album. So on the outside and the cover, I designed all of my cuts on my Cricut Maker for future use. I just like to do that because then I don't have to use my paper cutter. I can go back and, as much of this as I want in different background papers I can cut once I've programmed it into the design space on the Cricut Maker. But you don't have to have a Cricut Maker, obviously, for this. You can just take the measurements yourself. And I would suggest when you're trying to figure out the measurements for all the pieces that you're putting on here, that you use a ruler and write them down. The dimensions are on the back of the packaging that this kit comes in, but I find them unreliable. Also, it depends. You may want to drop off 1/4 of an inch on each one so you have sort of a border. That's what I usually do. So I've got these all on here, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So here we go. Some reason I cut more than I needed, my fault, of these background pieces for the pages, but I thought, well, why waste them? I'll just use them as an additional element on the cover and on the back of the album. So here we go. Everything is here. It was very easy. Once we figured out how to put this all together, I'll turn this to the side so you can see it. Can't get it all in the shot, but it's a substantial album. I think there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 or 15 when we lose one for the adhering to it. So there are 15 pages on here. Actually, I just thought of something. You could put this together in another way. There's a little flap under here halfway through for joining this together, but you could use that flap to hinge it onto this background here, and you could probably rig up something to put the rest of the pages on, attach it to it, and then you'd have another part. This would probably flip up and you could put more there. Up to you. I think there's plenty here. Oops, I'm curling this up. The way I adhered these pages, I started off by using double-sided tape, but I found that was kind of slow going, and really I used my Gorilla Glue for all of these little inserts here. Just put a dot of glue at each corner, put it down, and that'll hold it fine. I do have a thing about using double-sided tape on a lot of projects, but since this paper is fairly heavy, I didn't have to worry about it warping, so I just used the good old Gorilla Glue Clear, the Super Glue Gorilla, and that works really well, and it dries very quickly. So there we have it. It is has all the basic background papers on it now. So all I have left to do is to decide on how I'm going to embellish the pages. And as I said, this little belt gives me some expansion room, which is good. So I will go into my stash for the next segment and pull out things that I think that I can use to start embellishing this. So that'll be in the next segment. Okay, so I have finished embellishing the album, and I did that off video because I thought it'd be kind of boring to watch me just glue things down. And like a lot of the albums I do, I don't put a whole lot of very careful thought into what I'm going to put on the various pages. I just grab interesting things from my stash and away I go. And I'm also trying to use up my stash as well because I have quite a collection. So for this particular album, I kind of just went into this junk basket I have, which consists of a whole bunch of little graphic cutouts that I've gotten from various sources that I've printed out and put through my Cricut Maker and had it do a print and cut with them, or you could fussy cut these pieces as well. Now where they've come from, I don't remember. Graphics Fairy, Mike Deacon, Tim Holtz, magazines, anything that I found that was printed that I thought was interesting, I set aside and spent some time just fussy cutting them all out with scissors and with the Cricut Maker. If the Cricut Maker would work on some of the graphics, it doesn't always work on every type of graphic. So I'm going to take you through this and show you what I've done. Now, right off the bat, you're going to notice something here. I have some things sticking out in the side, and I'm going to explain that in a moment once you see what those really are. But on the outside of this, I took that band, and I said before I thought of putting magnets in this instead of using the band, but I kind of like the band, something a little different, so I didn't use magnets. I just used some of my paper flowers, I think these were from Prima, and just glued them down to the band itself so that when you take this off, it just slides off. And you see, you could put it off to the side too if you wanted to, instead of in the center, up to you. And it holds everything secure. Now, this is not a huge album in terms of how thick it is, so I didn't put in any 3D embellishments because basically there just wasn't room. And also, as I was working on the embellishing of this album, I decided that I wanted to make an album that would have plenty of room for pictures and journaling. So you're going to see what I did in here. Just open this up and you turn it to the side. And here essentially is your album, the accordion fold album. And you know that that's got about 15 pages. It's double-sided in here. So what I did was I essentially just glued. Oh, I noticed I missed a couple of cards here. I'll have to add a couple of cards in there. But what I did was, going through my stash of fancy cutouts, I used them like paper clips. So I only put glue on one side of it, and I used it very sparingly so that I have a flap under here that I can tuck a card under. And as I said, I didn't put a lot of thought in this. This is not really thematic. It's just whatever I had laying around. So it's very eclectic. I guess that's my excuse for saying I just used random elements. I went into my Project Life cards and found ones that had expressions on them, and those could be used as prompts. In some cases, I darkened the borders with a little bit of distress ink around the edge, and these are two-sided. In this particular set I pulled up had words on one side and a spot to journal on another. So these could all be used as prompts. But you don't have to journal on these cards. You could put a photo on here or a clipping or whatever, and it just tucks under here. Now, at first, when I first started doing this, I realized these cards were larger than my page, and I could have cut them down. But then I thought, no, I kind of like the idea of them sticking out from the edge. And I didn't do it here, but I just thought of this. You could put, using your label maker, or even using some of like the sticky chat words from Tim Holtz, and just put them on the edge of each one of these, and they'd serve as tabs in a sense as well. So that would add another dimension to this particular album. I didn't do it because I just thought of it, but I think that'd be a cool idea. So that's what I've done throughout all of these pages, is I put these cards here, and as you can see, it all folds up. I'll show you the other side. Oops. Now, the one thing is your cards are possibly going to drop out. And another tip, when you're gluing these little pieces down here to act as your paper clips, you of course want to only use glue on one side of them so that the card can slip underneath. And you want to use it very sparingly. And this is where the Gorilla Glue that I've been using, the super glue, comes in really handy, because this holds really, really well and dries clear and dries fast. You've heard me talk about it before. I can't say too much about it. I love it. So all the cards are in here, so lots of room for journaling, pictures, whatever. So we'll just fold this back up. And you do want to make sure your cards are, or your clips are deep enough that the edge of the card is not over top of the hinge. Otherwise, your booklet, your interior booklet, is not going to close up. Now, of course, if this bothers you with the cards hanging out, this card came from somewhere, there it is, you don't like that, you don't need to do, you could make the cards smaller, or you could put in whatever you want to put in under these clips. You can do whatever you want. It's your album. So there you go. I added these chip words from Tim Holtz. And let's just put the belly bar, or not, I call it a belly bar. It's not a belly bar, it's a belt. Belly band, that's what I want to call it. Takes a little fiddling here. Okay, there we go. Slides on. And there we have it. So that's all I did for embellishing this album. Of course, you could do anything you want. This has lots of potential here for all kinds of things. And as I said, these little cards hang out here. You could use them like tabs. Just put some words on them, or use your label maker to customize it, whatever you like. And I just think that adds another element to it that's a little different. So that takes us to the end of this series on the iCraft Mini Cascading Album. And I hope you enjoyed that.